private finance initiative. Now, in the private finance initiative model, the private sector remains responsible for the design, construction, and operation. Responsible for design, construction, and operation. The private sector is responsible for designing the project, constructing the project, and operating the project. It's almost all the phases. It remains responsible for the design, construction, and operation of an infrastructure facility. And in some cases, the public sector may relinquish the right of ownership of assets. Public sector may relinquish right of ownership. This is not the case with the other models. The other models, the government retains the ownership regardless of the nature of the contract. But here, in some cases, the private sector may relinquish the right of ownership of assets to the private sector. And in this model, the private sector purchases infrastructure services from the private sector through a long-term agreement. Do you understand? The public sector does what? Purchases infrastructure services from the private sector through a long-term agreement. Private finance initiative, sometimes referred to as the PFI. PFI projects. PFI. Now, the PFI projects, therefore, bear direct financial obligations to the government in any event. In addition, explicit and implicit contingent liabilities may also arise due to loan guarantees provided to the lenders and also the default of public or private entity on non-guaranteed loans. So a PFI project can be structured on minimum payment by the government over a fixed contract tenor or minimum contract tenor for a fixed annual payment, or a combination of both payment and tenor. So in the PFI model, asset ownership at the end of the contract period is generally transferred to the public sector. And setting up of what we call an SPV, setting up of an SPV, which is a special vehicle, a special purpose vehicle, may be always necessary. So a PFI contract may be awarded to an existing company. And for the purpose of financing, the lenders may, however, require the establishment of a special purpose vehicle. And this kind of model has many variants. And in a PFI project, as the same entity builds and operates the services and is paid for the successful supply of services at a predefined standard, the special purpose vehicle has no incentive to reduce the quality or the quantity of services. So, candidates, this form of contractual arrangement reduces the risk of cost overruns during the design and also the construction phases, or of choosing an efficient technology, since the operator's future earnings depend on controlling the costs. So the public sector's main advantage lie in the relief from bearing the cost of design and construction, and also the transfer of certain risks to the private sector and the promise of better project design, construction, and operation. So what are the main pros? What are the main advantages? Of course, looking at the other models, the first pro or advantage will be in relation to the risks. The private sector bears significant. The private sector bears significant share of risks. There is also high level of private investment. It's high level of private investment, because you've seen here that the private sector or company designs, constructs, and operates, so bears high level of investment. Another advantage is in relation to the efficiency gains. There is potential for efficiency gains. Potential for efficiency gains is very high. Potential for efficiency gains is high, including innovation. Innovation gains is also high. This kind of model is attractive to the private sector. This is what the private sector likes. You've seen here the public sector may relinquish right of ownership. Assets owned by the government may be, the right to own such assets are relinquished to the private sector, and that's very attractive to private investors in an untested or developing PPP market. It's most suitable for social sector infrastructure projects. It's more suitable for what? It's more suitable for social sector infrastructure projects like schools, like dormitories, we have hospitals, communities, and so on. Disadvantages? Complex to implement. Not any company can implement this, or arrangement between the government may not be able to implement. It's not easy to implement and manage the contractual regimes. The government in private finance initiative has direct what we call financial liability. Direct financial. The government has direct financial liability. Negotiations between the private sector and the public sector may take too long. They may take too long because this is a contractual arrangement that is required to take a period of 50 years or 30 years, 20 years. So negotiations may take too long before the agreement is reached. Then there is a question on regulation. Regulatory efficiency is very important. Is necessary and important. Regulatory efficiency. Contingent liabilities on the government. Contingent liabilities on the government. That is in the medium and in the long term.